I'm Will Goldstein, and the subject of this video is Who is Christ? Part 2, entitled The Divine Dilemma Regarding Knowledge and Ignorance. It's a follow-up to the first video that was the first cause of the Incarnation from the book on the Incarnation by Saint Antanasius. Too good with names like that. But anyway, number one, it begins with he begins with re-emphasizing that humans came into being by the Creator from nothing. Our deficiency in being able to comprehend such awesome power is God, by seeing that, has mercy on us, because he understands that we just can't comprehend his ways. So this is a dilemma. So God did not want to leave us without knowing our Maker. So here we had lost the image because of sin, and he didn't want to just abandon us. So what reason would God have for making a creation in which he is not known? So look at it from God's point of view. He's in this situation now where we're lost, and we don't really know him, and yet he's our Maker, and we sort of feel for him in this. And yet his creation has rejected and been disobedient and left. And so what reason was there to ever even make us if we didn't know him? So through Christ, and we'll move forward towards that, but in this part of the book, here's the book that I'm taking this from, just so you know. Kind of like a book report. Through Christ's life, his example and his teachings, we could learn about God and have a happy life. So that was the whole idea, to restore us back to God. But unfortunately, mankind, being foolish, despised the grace of God and turned away and darkened our souls. He actually uses that word, darkened our souls. I talk a lot about light and enlightenment. Well, when there is no enlightenment, your soul is darkened. So what did man do? So we're kind of without God, so we created idols, false gods. And so we were transferring the honor that was due, and respect and reverence that is due to God, was transferred to wood and stone. How absurd it is if you really think of a lot of what mankind has done. It's pretty pathetic. And so then, of course, then further away from God. So what do we end up doing? Practicing the magic arts, and with our oracles, we led more men astray with false teachings. So God, looking at the whole situation, he just doesn't want to abandon us. The picture of this is really God is just, no matter what we do, he loves his creation. He always has a comeback. So out of God's mercy, he sent the law and the prophets to try and set us straight. So we got the Ten Commandments, we got Moses, and we could learn about God and obtain a life of virtue and learn how to control our conduct. So he wants to set us straight, okay? But unfortunately, again, we despise this truth and follow the way of evil and demons. And of course, when you follow the way of evil and demons, you lose all rationality and become irrational beings like beasts. So now this image of God that we were started out to be is just a beast. No more shining light, no more glory of humanity, no more dignity, all just tossed to the wind. So God refused to abandon us to the demons. Since our original purpose was to be in the image of God, man's turning to idols was a mockery to God. So basically, that's what we're doing. We're mocking God when we, worship false idols. And in that state, if God just left it that way, there is no profit to God. There's no glory that he gets due him. Because, like I said, we become nothing more than brute beasts. So if you look at it like God is a king, well, all kings expect, some service from their subjects. This is the way kingdoms are run in every age, from a real, earthly king. Okay, so when we worship false gods, the error leads us to our own destruction. So by doing that, we are creating our own destruction, because God is the only one that can save us, not the false gods. So the only answer that God could really see out of the whole thing was the coming of Christ, to renew again the image of God that was lost in Adam. So he basically sent his only begotten Son. So I'll get to the begotten in a little while here. But Christ, being the image of the Father, and so that when he sent Christ, that's who Christ is. In Colossians 1:15, Christ is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. The image of the invisible God, that's who Christ is. There was no other way to destroy death and corruption. So God himself had to take on human flesh, because that was the only way to destroy death and corruption and preserve the dignity of man, which was the original intent in the Garden of Eden. So that's why God made man, to know him. So think about it. That's the main intent, the main reason why we exist, is to know him, okay, and to have a relationship. And up until then, that had all been lost, up until Christ. So the Word, the only begotten Son of God, took a mortal body. So the only begotten, so look, this is confusing to a lot of people, because we are adopted sons of God, and in the term sons of God exists in Judaism, sons of God, and sons of God are often thought of as immortals. Some people think they're the same as angels. Some people think there's a distinction in powers in the supernatural world between sons of God and angels. Catholics particularly don't think that. They see it all as one, at least the Catholics that I've talked to. Some people have a distinction there. Both of those terms are used. Messenger is usually referred to as angel is usually referred to as a messenger. Sons of God in the Bible is more like immortals who are more like family. But they're adopted. They're not. The difference is begotten. What begotten really means is that he's the same essence as of God. So he's the only begotten because he is the actual essence of God. Other sons of God are not the essence of God. They're like adopted sons. So the all-holy Son of the Father came to dwell among us to save that which was lost. Luke 19:10. That's why he came, to save that which was lost. So again, God extending himself every imaginable way. In receiving Christ, the soul is born again. A lot of people wonder what born again is. Well, he's defining born again. Receiving Christ, the soul is born again and recreated after the image. Those are the exact words that Saint Antanasius used. Okay? I'll say them again. He recreated after the image, the original image. Okay. So as he lived among us, Christ taught us the way. So In the resurrection, through the resurrection, there are people who were a lot of witnesses to the resurrection who testified having seen him. Okay, so he was around for a period of time after that before he ascended into heaven in the clouds, and he will come again in the same way that he ascended up to heaven in the clouds. And so when they saw him, that he had resurrected, that convinced them that he was the true Lord reigning over death, even over death. His life was a testimony by his actions that he was not only human God, but God, the ruler and king of the universe. He was enclosed in the body. So here's a very interesting point. So if he's really God, who's running the universe since he's in a body? Well, he addresses this issue. He was enclosed in the body and he was in the body as a man and as the Son of God in the dual nature, but he was not contained by it. He was enclosed in it, but he wasn't contained by it, because nothing prevented him while he was in the body from being omnipresent and everywhere else and sustaining the universe by his activity and his providence. So he's in a body, and at the same time, he's governing the universe. This is incomprehensible to us, but it was just like he's borrowing this body. But it is his body. He took on human flesh and deified it. So he is both inside creation by his power, but he's outside of all of creation by his essence. So this is a lot of what I referred to when I was talking about panentheism. That's another way of saying it. Those are the words that Athanasius used. So he was not defiled by our body. You would say, some people say, well, he would be defiled by taking a human body. But he sanctified and purified the body because he was a being without sin. 1 Peter 2:22. So it didn't corrupt him taking on our body. It deified our body so that we have a potential to be immortals. His body was real, and it was not an illusion. He had an actual body. He suffered just like us. And his humanity, the Son of Man. So whenever you're talking about the humanity of Christ, you're talking about the Son of Man. That Son of Man died, but the perfect Son of God within him could not die. So that's another important period, and therefore he arose on the third day. So the way I look at it is the Son of God in him rose the Son of Man in him. So he rose himself. That's the way I look at it. So, but because the Son of Man died, that's a substitution for us. Because the Son of God did not die. So the payment for sin is through the Son of Man dying, not the Son of God. Because the Son of God did not die. It was the Son of Man, his earthly body, that the Son of God in him resurrected that Son of Man in him. So while roaming the earth, he walked on water. There are a few of his miracles. From 5 loaves, he fed 5,000. The day that he died, the sun, I'm using the words that Athanasius used, the sun turned back and the earth shook while he was on the cross. So here you have a picture of the God of the universe dying on a cross, the Son of Man in him dying, and the entire earthquake and the earth shaking and the sun basically refusing to shine because it's God was on a cross. This is the love of God.